or simply a slogan. All you need to do is simply vote and let us know why you're giving the answer that you're giving, and add the hashtag InFocus, and that we'll be able to follow that. So far as we speak, 47% of those who have polled are saying that Pan-Africanism is real, and 53% say that Pan-Africanism is just a slogan. We'll see at the end of the show how the polls will be looking at. Let's also sample another tweet right there from Kananura Derek. He says that the real Pan-Africanists or Pan-Africans went with the Nyerere generation. The few that still exist are pulled down by non-performing counterparts. What does Jim Karani say? Jim Karani says that it is on its deathbed, that is Pan-Africanism, and the case and example, the free trade agreement. Some countries trade easily with their colonial powers than fellow African states. We'll sample this throughout the show. And one more tweet right there from Fiona Babazi, a sister in the profession, says, bro, Pan-Africanism is leaders signing, declaring, ratifying the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. If the leaders we put there can't believe in Africa, who will? And you're saying, okay, bye, we hit it again. No, come back. We still have a show to do, and of course, some tweets to read. Keep those tweets coming. We'll be sampling them in the course of the program. Let me bring on board our panelists tonight on the program. We have Miriam Nsekonziza. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
A student at the Africa Leadership University. Thank you for being on the program. It's the first time, eh?
Yeah.
Very first time on air.
Very first time.
I assure you, you'll enjoy it. All right. Also with us, not
so.
new to the program, Alice Karekezi, actually a trained lawyer. I never knew that part, that you're a lawyer.
There are many parts you don't know.
What I know also is that you are a peace and security university lecturer at the University of Rwanda. And of course, you're a specialist on issues of conflict management resolution. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Pleasure.
We'll get to know you even better through the show. Okay, that's a hot one. Lonzen Rujira makes a comeback. Of course, Alice mentioned that this is our co-producer now.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us again, Lonzen. Coming in.
Much.
Also with us via Skype, all the way in South Africa, is Brian Kagoro. Brian Kagoro is a Pan-Africanist entrepreneur and a consultant, and he's also a development government enthusiast, faith and music lover. Brian, I pulled this out of your bio on Twitter. Thank you for joining us all the way from South Africa.
Most welcome. Thank you for having me.
Right. So we've been reading some of the tweets that have been coming through on this particular topic. But the key concern today, from what I've been gathering, is that a lot of us have a different understanding of what Pan-Africanism is. Brian, since you're far away, let's give you the honors of starting us off with probably telling us, what is your understanding of Pan-Africanism? Who qualifies to be called a Pan-Africanist?
The aspiration of all persons of African descent to live lives of dignity in which they can realize their full potential, to develop as individuals, collectively, to act in solidarity, to be united and assert their Africanness across the world, whether you are in Latin America, you are in Asia, Africa, elsewhere. The aspiration to unite all Africa, to integrate our continent, to become a people in ourselves and a people for ourselves.
Great. Perfect. Lonzen.
Is a key aspect.
Right. Let's take that for now. And of course, I hope that the technicians at the controls can try to help us with the sound issue. I'm hoping that our viewers are able to hear this loud and clear. Dr. Lonzen, the aspirations here are those of, uniting and working together with, the rest of the continent, the people of the African continent, those within and even in diaspora. Some people have been arguing from the tweets that we've been reading that this is just on paper. It is just ideas that are not real, just a slogan. They don't see it in practice. Is this the same thought that you carry with you?
Pan-Africanism is an idea, and this idea has a historical context. In fact, Africa is an idea, but the question is, what idea is Africa? Now, the past 700 years since the 15th century, one may say, the idea of Africa has been an idea of a subjugated people. So the idea of Pan-Africanism is to reclaim the African out of subjugation.
Subjugation.
Yes.
In simple terms, what does that mean?
It is a people who have been treated as second class or third class citizens of the world. And the idea of Pan-Africanism is to use that vehicle to reclaim the African essence as a people of dignity, people worthy of respect, and people who in the community of nations have a role to play, a role that is respectable, and it rejects the idea that an African is a subjugated, a second-class person, and it articulates the essence of the African vis-a-vis the distortion of who the African is. And that distortion has been in place for the past 700 years, as I've told you. So as long as the African remains a person that is subjugated, which is a fact today, the African, if you bring an alien to the earth, on earth today, and just goes around, anywhere where there is a black person or in the world, alien would say there's a problem with this person. This person is mistreated, this person is second class, especially in relation to because the idea of subjugation is a race idea, race and racism. So in the confrontation of a race, a world of race, so the alien will look at the African very odd person and say, how come everywhere I go, this person of this skin color are the lowest sprung of the human structure? So that is the idea of Pan-Africans, to elevate the African from this view of being a third-rate human being to a person of respectability who is worthy of life as a human being.
Is it working today? Or would you also say, as others were saying, that this is dead, we are not seeing it working? As you say, that alien would say there's a problem here. So would you also jump in the wagon of those who are saying that Pan-Africanism as an ideology is not actually practical, it's not working, it is just a slogan?
Pan-Africanism today is like a bullet that does not have the what is the thing? It's an empty shell. So the ideas of respectability, of articulating the essence of the African as person worthy of respect, have disappeared. So this is why it is very difficult to mobilize young people to rally behind Pan-Africanism, because the content is empty. So it is upon the African to articulate the essence of the African. Who is an African? Today we have no idea who is an African. And today the fact is, even though we are unable to articulate who the African is, the fact is that the African today is a subjugated individual in world affairs.
Right. Alice, I mean, I don't know if you'll speak for yourself. He says everybody doesn't know who's an African if you're asked today. And he also says this whole Pan-Africanism of today is like an empty shell. It's sitting there as a Pan-Africanist yourself. Do you agree with Dr. Lonze?
But the emptiness of the shell doesn't mean its irrelevance or its actual emptiness. I'm not trying to be philosophical here. It means mostly its richness, because Pan-Africanism is a lot of things. It started by the idea. It is an attitude, it is an ideology, it is a way of life, it is an effort that leaders are mobilizing to precisely address the problems of subjugation that has been there forever. To those who believe that Pan-Africanism is an empty slogan, I think it's really time to read more, to know more the history of African people. It is not, if it was an African slogan, what has happened here in March 2018 would not happen. And this is the fruit of so many generations. Can you believe me if I tell you that in 1974, Cheikh Anta Diop was writing about the foundations, the economic and cultural foundations of the Federation of Africa as an intellectual, evidence-backed document. So the debate has been there. And I think what we can agree at the minimum is that Pan-Africanism as a concept, or maybe as a construct, is very contested because not because it means nothing, because it means many things to many people. Now, all the efforts, all the ideas, all those people have are those efforts that are making us here. Today we have an agreement, a free trade agreement. Yes. If it was an empty shell, how come from 2011 it was only signed in 2018? While people were thinking that these are slogans, these things were happening, and many more in many other continents. I was listening to a program about Africans in Ecuador, in the Caribbean there. So they are reclaiming. Today they do a festival after many centuries of denying. What it shows us is that the struggle for the liberation of the African people is a long-term way that has to be sustained.
But then at the end of the day, if you say that the Continental Free Trade Agreement was signed out of Pan-Africanism, some would argue and say, no, it was just signed out of business interests. And those who signed agreed to put pen to paper because they felt there's something they would gain out of it. And those who refused to sign,
Pan-Africanism is also business.
Right.
But confining Pan-Africanism to a trendy moment is what makes people think it doesn't exist. So why would the leaders of the continent would bother to have a trade agreement if it is, they can do that on their own? Yes, and doing this business is having an economically strong Africa that would matter in global affairs, as he was pointing at.
Right. Miriam, as a young person listening to what Alice says, does it sound gibberish? Is it something that young people can understand? Is this something that you can make sense out of? Or why I ask you this is the place of young people in this whole Pan-Africanism affair. Do you see young people fitting into this at all?
Well, thank you very much. It's going to be very hard to oppose people who really have the facts and they're in the field trying to pursue Pan-Africanism. Yes. But standing in the place of the youth, I would really say we haven't embraced the idea yet. Apart from the people who are out there, these few people are in universities and they have tried to understand what they are studying for, trying to develop their countries, and even these Pan-African movements come to them. But when we talk about the youth who are supposed to love their countries and serve them and understand this whole concept, I'm talking about these people who do not know when the trade was signed. These people out there in the village. It's still a slogan. To me, I feel like being a slogan is not terrible, because in the beginning, it's an idea that has to trend and then change people's mindsets. But we are still saying that this idea hasn't gone as far as it should have. So to some people, I was telling people earlier that it's even more of a hashtag than it's going to be a slogan. It's something that we just type and put it on our messages or probably our t-shirts or anything. But it doesn't mean much yet, because these interests that our presidents are having, we are not feeling them right now, because we are trying to strive to go to live abroad. We want to study abroad. We want to do business abroad, because we don't know if this trend is really tracking. So to the youth, I feel like it's still a slogan. It's not real.
What if you tell those who are taking you abroad not to take you abroad and say, I want to study in Africa?
Because you can't just tell a youth not to study abroad. People have been there, they tell us there's money. Well, personally, I did not go there because I wasn't able to go there, but I just chose because I got a chance of going to the African Leadership University where you just get the education you would get abroad. But people who are not getting what they need, they're so fast, like they want it right now, there and then they see, let's say I want a business and then I put it in my country and there's too much tax, and I was told if I go abroad, I have this business idea, I'll just start and operating, I have people who fund me. A big number of youth are dying trying to cross these big oceans because they know there's money, there's life out there. So they have not gotten this idea of, if I love my country, help it develop, I'll get what I need in my country.
Right.
So to us, it's still something probably politicians talk about, we don't even know.
Right. Let me bring back Brian. Brian, if you're still there with us, I want to read your thoughts on why you think most people still feel that Pan-Africanism is just a slogan and it's not something that is practical. People are not actually doing what they say. They're not walking the talk of what they actually say.
First, I think that let's disabuse ourselves about this being a unique African thing. American young people die trying to escape America. The young people who are fighting as jihadists in Syria are from Germany, from France, from the United Kingdom. The feeling amongst young people of discontentment, of dislocation, of alienation is not unique to Africa. If you think about Pan-Africanism, quickly, Nkrumah thought about it as African unity and economic liberation. Nyerere thought about it as self-reliance. Haile Selassie thought about it, emancipation from mental slavery as the basis of all other liberation. Samora Machel thought about it as dignity. Mandela thought about it as freedom from discrimination. Amilcar Cabral thought about it as an act of cultural liberation, to assert and express yourself. Frantz Fanon thought of it as a combination of all these other things, but above all as discovering a revolutionary machine. And then you had Du Bois, C.L. James, so on and so on. The youth today listen to music from across the continent. They would, people in Rwanda would listen to Davido from Nigeria. People in Kenya would listen to Oliver Mtukudzi from Zimbabwe and identify hip hop, which was a music of love, protest, is listened to across the world. People identify, use its lingua, use the people listen to both and sing along, and they identify the message. So if you think about Pan-Africanism, first about the cultural expression and the mental assertive position that says I'm no less a human being because I'm an African or because I'm black. If you think about the aspiration that says we need strong African states so that we can trade, so that we can do commerce, create jobs that will make our youth not want to go to, so that we are not dependent. Then if African youth still want to see African countries that are governed well, that ensure their dignity, African youth are still Pan-Africanists. They may not use a Pan-Africanism, but the aspiration is not different from that of Boyce. It's not different from that of C.L. It's not different from that of Yen. They may not be political, but they certainly are Africans who believe their own dignity. The perfection that we see in an identity is one that's not found anywhere in the world. You tell me who is a European. Look, tell me who is an American. They can't even agree on some of this, but that does not stop from asserting an Americanness.
Right.
Everybody else is trying to escape from Africa. But look at how many people from China, from Europe, from America are coming to our shores every day. What is it that they are seeing in Africa that Africans are in their own country?
Right. Brian, I'm gonna stop you at that and then bring back the panelists right here in studio. Alice, I see you're signaling you want to jump in on that.
Yes, just to show how materialized it is.
Yes.
In addition to those movement and the figures my brother Kagoro was mentioning, you have to know that one of the key songs of mobilization of Rwanda Patriotic Front is essentially a Pan-Africanist song, Afrika Warakubitite, which takes back the fight. And we know what it has led to today. We know that we have, for Africans who are denied entry everywhere in the world, visa upon arrival. I don't know how we can underestimate such development. Rwanda has offered, and it has snowballed in many countries. The other day, at the occasion of President Kagame in Ethiopia, right, we had the announcement and so on. It is not because you don't see on your plates something written out as Pan-Africanism, that it is not happening. And we have to be also aware that today our youth believes that what happens on Twitter, on social media, it's what happens actually. That's a very important space where virtual things happen, but they are backed behind by very concrete things. If African Leadership University comes and settles in Rwanda, why do you underplay it as this is a Ghanaian who has created a project of African Leadership University and has brought it in Mauritius and in Rwanda. Right. And we can cite so many examples.
We can cite so many examples.
Yes, and it is very important that the youth and also the general public get also aware of the continent and what are happening. When you have people like Dangote or Mo Ibrahim caring about what is happening within countries that are not theirs, what is it? Isn't Pan-Africanism?
So what Brian says also here, Dr. Lonzen, and adding or topping up to what Alice is saying, then where is the problem? I mean, Brian asks, we see a lot of Chinese, we see a lot of Europeans flocking the shores of Africa, you know, but as Miriam said, we are mostly going out. What is it that
not mostly? That's a minority.
But it's not a minority.
Millions
actually, millions.
Yeah,
yes.
I would agree with her that young people today, the probably biggest ambition of the young person today is to leave the African continent, the primary ambition, and that is a very serious problem. Now, there are quite a few issues that we need to address. One is Pan-Africanism is resilient. On the one hand, we have a lot of people who rightly say that Pan-Africanism is meaningless, yet it has survived all these many centuries. Now, why does it survive? Because the African is not going to give up the struggle for respectability, for dignity. So even though there is incoherency in the struggle for dignity, Pan-Africanism remains a vehicle of hope. It's much more hope than fact. Huh? So it is a vehicle of hope because it promises a future of respectability. So however meaningless it may be perceived to be, the promise allows it to remain relevant. Now, the second point that is attached to that is that over the past probably 70 years, the most potent concept in reclaiming the African, the essence of the African as a respectable person, has been the idea of decolonizing the mind. So the reason this idea remains potent is because it is the most coherent critique African of the loss of the essence, the loss as a factor that explains the role of the African in his own subjugation. So the idea is that once the African has been decolonized as in the mind, at least the African may be facing the forces that seek to perpetuate his subjugation, but the African will not be an active participant in his own subjugation. Yeah, so that is why the whole idea of decolonizing the mind therefore assumes that the African mind today is not African. Yeah, so to decolonize the mind is to...
Is your mind African?
I'm telling you something important here. Yeah. The point is that the mind of the African, if the mind of the African is reclaimed to be essentially authentically African, that is the decolonized aspect of it, then means this is an African who is able to know who he is, be confident in who he is, assert himself on the global level, respect and value the fellow African, and first and foremost, give due and opportunity and a chance to life and the whole respectability about the human being to the fellow African before it's given to somebody else. Because I told you, the alien will say something's wrong here. Because when you bring an African here, there's a white person and the black person here, the African is going to treat the white person favorably at the expense of the black person.
The fellow black person.
Yes, and regardless of any other intervening factor in between. So that tells you the alien who is coming on the earth today for the first time is going to look at this and say, there's a problem here. What problem that this person have against the person who looks like them, but they are favorable towards? So for the alien who has no idea what is going on, says these people have a problem.
Indeed, what he says resonates with so many people, especially even in the languages issue. When a Rwandese, a Kenyan, or a native from Africa speaks broken English, we laugh at them. We as Africans or fellow Africans. But when a Mzungu
the subject of Her Majesty,
even if it is broken Kinyarwanda, we clap for them. And this is what Dr. Lonson is saying about decolonizing the mind. Where do we start? With who? How?
Decolonizing the mind is one of the crucial issues. Let's just think about what is going on today. African countries and institutions are all embarked in debates on bilateral debates with the European Union, Africa-Japan conference, etc. So the lack of confidence we have comes from those 700 years of subjugation and not only disrespect, but also loss of self-respect. And this is one of the most critical problems as a people, regardless of our countries and societies, we suffer. Lack of confidence on what we can. To what Lonson has described, I would add the capacity to pursue our interest. That's why developments like the free trade, because we have debates, we have treaties with continents, Asia and countries are all rushing in the continent to have economic deals with us. So the youth today should ask themselves, if we are trying to run abroad and all the parties are just here looking at our countries as the next El Dorado, our countries and our continent, like the next El Dorado. Of course, as Lonson has said, it has taken a lot of different ideological battles, slavery, colonialism, and today's democratization. We are the only people where any country can have public opinions about what we do in our internal affairs. Yes. So
and some
how
of
do
us
we
even feel happy and okay for other people
yes.
to
So
dictate.
how do we, without even being vast on ideology of Pan-Africanism, how do we look at these interests, positive or negative, that focuses on our continent? Are we aware that if they are coming to see us, if they are battling to manage our homes, our countries, maybe we have interesting things that even
we haven't seen ourselves.
We haven't seen ourselves because of that lack of self-respect. Right. So that's one is in our young people. It is in our old people. It is a generational battle that we have to fight all the time. We do it in different ways. First of all, asserting our interest. Deciding who we want to have deals with. And pursuing our freedom without negotiation. So this is the political battle.
Right.
But there's a more subtle problem that is more psychological. How do we look at ourselves? Why do we have to change our accent, as you say, that broken when we see people? This is, you don't need to be a Pan-African activist to ask yourself that. That's why I'm saying it is every day, it is there, it has never gone anywhere. That resilience shows that we haven't solved the problem even as we are speaking today.
Right, Miriam, they've been speaking of 700 years. I mean, those are so many years. You can even say that is not my fault. I was not there. I was not part of that. But how can the youth of today redefine Pan-Africanism to fit in the 21st century's generation and still carry on the dreams, the aspirations of the founders of this movement, of the founders of this dream and passion? How can we do this as young people today?
Well, my biggest concern is in the beginning, how do they get to know what it is? In the first, because she talked about how they expect it to go on social media, which is a platform. Yes, it has to be on social media if that's how we have to get the youth to understand it. Or let's say it has to go down to a level of Mudugudu, if you want even those people to know what Pan-Africanism is, because some of them, I mean, them is those people who are dying in the oceans. There are people who have been told, I'll take you to the US or I'll take you to the Europe. You'll start working, you'll serve 2 hours a day and earn $1,000. So the first concern is how do we get them to know? First,
how would you want to be made to know
initially,
as a young generation?
I'll give you an example. Right now, I feel like, I'll give a small example testimony. I was a student in the University of Rwanda. I was doing medicine and then I was given pharmacy and I'm like, this is not my passion. Let me just go on and think about it, then come back. When I went to the African Leadership University, I reached there and I'm like, wow, I'm not going anywhere. Even if I was given a medical school in the US, I'm not going anywhere. What did they do to me? They didn't bribe, they didn't give me any money, but they have taught me, made me to love what I have, and being told that everything that I need, everything that I look out in the other world can happen in my country. So number one is education.
Right.
So if our education doesn't teach young people or kids what Pan-Africanism is, because if I was to ask my little sister who's 10 years right now, she'd be like, I have no idea what that is. Right. So if we were to be taught that in our schools,
from an early age.
I do not insist that it becomes a lesson, but if it really can be a lesson, like let's say African studies, that would be the best thing that would ever happen. Another thing is we are given opportunities. We actually, people who come from abroad, like you said, people are coming from all over the world to our countries. They have come and showed us that we have more potential than our own people have told us. So a person sits with you 5 minutes and they'll be like, you're so smart. What do you think you can do? What do you need? And we have been having uncles who have been earning money, and then when you tell them you have a business idea, they'll be like, you start wasting money.
So we need to start believing and trusting each other.
Telling us that we can be what we want to be. We don't have to be we don't have to be in the USA to be great people. So for example, they talked about how the presidents are doing, but should we wait people to become politicians to understand Pan-Africanism? Do we all have to be presidents to understand that the Pan-Africanism is really going on? We want to see it live by, let's say, what the African Union is setting out as goals to do. We want to see it live, implemented in our countries, other than being meetings that happen over and over, so that if, let's say, they say a trade and then they give people a reduced tariff, the people who are doing small businesses are out there. They have to be told the rights, what they have. They'll be like, go open a business because this and this is happening. And then they will start loving their countries.
Perfect. I want to just go onto our screen just to read the tweets on what people are saying. But as I go, Brian, I want to bring you in on the importance of leadership in actually pushing this agenda of Pan-Africanism. We saw among the tweets that were being sent out here, one of them said that actually our leaders, our African leaders, are happy to do business with, you know, Western nations or Western countries as opposed to working with fellow Africans. Is this part of what waters down this whole movement or this whole ambition of Pan-Africanism? I think my microphone is off. Can you hear me? All right, perfect. Alice, thank you so much. I'd actually posted or thrown a question to Brian, if he's still with us. Of course, I wanted to understand the importance of leadership in this whole agenda that we're talking about. But before Brian comes back to respond to that, let's just take some minutes and go through what you're saying online. I have some 57 new results. Let's take a look at what you've been saying on this particular issue over here. I have Vanessa Rukundo. I think we've just gone to her profile, which we're not supposed to. Let's just go back to to the hashtag InFocusRW, and then we check the latest tweets that are coming through. Keep them coming. All you need to do is just send your tweets and add the hashtag InFocusRW. And Pascal says, whenever I hear or read this, I slowly shrink deep into the river of disappointment. Sadly, even those claiming to be Pan-Africanists are nothing but pretenders and power mongers. Pan-Africanism is used for greedy motives. We have some serious ones, but most are mediocre. Alice, when you hear this, this is so harsh. What do you think about it? It's actually there on the screen. If you can just go through it. Whenever I hear or read this, I slowly shrink deep into the river of disappointment. Sadly, even those claiming to be Pan-Africanists are nothing but pretenders and power mongers. There's the feeling of dissatisfaction among those who people have expectations to actually walk the talk on these issues that Pan-Africanism carry with it. How do we bring back hope, faith, among those who have lost hope in all this issue of Pan-Africanism?
One way is, first of all, to make people aware of what is happening, as Miriam mentioned. Yes. And I still sustain that much as we would have wanted to have more progress quickly, we have also to grasp with what is happening. So that's one way of addressing disenchantment. Right. The other aspect, I think, and again related to what Miriam was alluding to, is education. When I hear many remarks, I'm saddened to see how little our youth know about what is going on in Africa. And I'm not trying to patronize, but I think there's need to read a bit more, to be more aware. Today in East Africa,
Right.
Rwanda has allowed Kenyans to come to work as citizens without restrictions, much earlier than this agreement has taken place. And just the other day, a bunch of Nigerians came to Rwanda to support the work of the University of Rwanda. Speaking about going to Mudugudu, Pan-African Movement Rwanda has been since 2015 holding meetings in Midugudu, in schools, all over.
But you agree there's more to be done?
Always.
Right.
There's
Always.
room for improvement.
There's room for
always.
improvement, yes.
Well, the young man who is saying that is correct to feel that way. If you're not disillusioned about the state of Africa, given its promise, you don't care very much about Africa. I think disillusionment and anger is a correct feeling. Now, we expect that two things. One, we expect that the ideas that were used to dominate us, we are going to use the same ideas to get freedom. That's not going to happen. We have to conceive our own ideas and pursue these ideas to challenge the ideas that subjugated us. Secondly is, when we talk about decolonizing the mind, the first people who urgently need to be decolonized the mind are our leaders. So we shouldn't look at the youth as a primary vehicle for decolonizing the mind. So if the minds of our leaders are not decolonized, we are going to spend another 500 years talking about the disillusionment. The third point I want to say is that, in defense of the young people again, the idea of what the young people should pursue and should value, they get this from the schools. Now, until the schools begin to urge young people to help them conceptualize who the African is, what is the place of the African in global affairs, and to really give the tools to the young people to go and pursue this place in global affairs, the young people are really being used as an excuse. And I'll reserve my last point.
Yes, for the parting shot. Let's bring back Brian. I think he's back with us. Brian, I'll take again the question that I'd asked you before we went for that abrupt break. The question was the place of our leaders. We've heard Dr. Lonson talk about the leaders as well. I mean, we should not just throw the ball in the court of the young people, but what role are our leaders playing to actually bring all this discontentment among people who feel that Pan-Africanism is just a slogan? Because some are happy to do business with the other people from Western nations as opposed to working together with fellow Africans as far as borders are concerned, businesses are concerned. What do we say about our leaders themselves?
I think, so that my answer makes sense, there are three kinds of Pan-Africanism. There's a Pan-Africanism of concern, which was about how we were oppressed, excluded, dehumanized within our history and within. I think my colleague was very subjugation. There was a Pan-African of influence about Africa becoming a global player. This is what Nkrumah was. You have unity. You bring your strengths together, you are able to negotiate with them. There is a Pan-African that people like President Kagame, the South Africans, some of the Zimbabweans are pushing, which is a Pan-Africanism that says we can be productive, we can perform as leaders, we can achieve results-based leading. We're not doing it to please the Europeans or the Asians. We're doing it for ourselves. Now, these three strands of Pan-Africa remain very dealing with discrimination. You see violence against people of African descent, Latin America, the United States of America, other parts of North America and Europe, now in the Arab world. where young ladies are being trafficked. Now, leadership is core to everything. If you have leaders who are slaves in their mentality, if you have leaders who are selfish, narcissistic, if you have leaders who don't believe in justice and freedom, those leaders are likely to get short-term gains and never long-term questions. So my view is this. There has never been a generation that achieves revolution and transformation if the young people are not discontented. The reason why Yala, James, and the early Pan-Africanists is they were unhappy. So this feeling of unhappiness can become toxic if it is not organized. So one of the slogans of Pan-Africanism is organize, don't agonize. Pan-Africanism lifeblood is solidarity.
Solidarity.
Solidarity across borders, across states, across ethnic, religious, gender type. Because the struggle takes various forms. Context matters. So we can struggle using literature, we can struggle using music. Some fought armed struggle. Some struggle through education. Others struggle through comment.
Right.
Because the African should not simply be black and proud. They need to show the substance of their pride.
Right.
If you are proud and can't feed yourself, you become a slave of that. African young today have the same mission, maybe different tools. The same mission Mandela had to ensure dignity, to ensure full employment, to ensure African-owned run business. That is the mission that Nkrumah. Unity. Because look, when you go to Europe, they don't care which African you come from. If there's a discrimination against persons of African, they will treat you like a country. Never mind you're a continent or 5 countries. Now look, the imperative means people who are in the churches preaching, people who are in the mosque, people who are in comments, people who are in universities, people who are in spaces that are deemed formal, must preach the message of Pan-Africanism. Self-worth,
Right.
self-dignity, hard work, self-reliance. These are the values and solidarity. If it hurts one,
It hurts all of us. Perfect.
Right. And if you don't feel, if Africans set back what genocide happened in, Africans sit back what we're seeing in the Sudan, in Burundi, Central Africa is happening, waiting for the French to intervene. As long as we haven't arrived at the stage where we say we will not allow anyone to stick our heads in our upset.
Perfect.
No one can drink Panat for our head.
Right. Right.
Then
Indeed.
don't understand.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Of course, thank you for that. I'll take that as your parting shot. Indeed, very powerful. Solidarity for me is the underlying word here. And of course, when you come among some of the tweets that we saw, some here was one of them was talking about the issue of the entire continent's reaction to the treatment of African immigrants in Libya and Israel. Outrage, but no commitment to helping. Yet every day we go on about Pan-Africanism. Where is the solidarity, or is it solidarity in words but not deeds? I mean, picking from what Brian says, solidarity, if it hurts them, it hurts all of us. I'll start with you, Miriam, as we close.
Yes.
Yes, your take on this whole thing of solidarity under Pan-Africanism. I mean,
Well, I believe that, like I said, I explained, after we understand that the only way we can have this become a reality.
Yes.
I also thought about getting role model, getting people to show us what it is like.
So we need more role models.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if we are frustrated by our leaders or the people we look out to who are not doing things right, who are taking the advantage of what they have to look out for their own needs, it's going to be very hard for us to fight it very hard.
Right.
We'll just decide to go for countries that are stable, and then we hurt all other African countries.
Right. Alice, very quickly, yes.
It is crucial that the youth sits back and ask themselves, when all our leaders and freedom fighters were taking up the struggle, what was the age? Who came and explained to them what Pan-Africanism was? And who put them in? Who put Sankara in the struggle? Who put Emesezer in the struggle? Who put Kagame in the struggle? Who put the Kwame Nkrumah? So who did the job that the youth today is asking to be done for them?
Right.
So if they answer this question, they will be able to identify their mission, to solve it, or to betray it, as Fanon would say.
Perfect. Dr. Lonzen.
Solidarity in the present context is a slogan. Solidarity is an expression of a set of values. Until we nurture those values, these slogans will stay there and they'll remain empty. So we need to go back to the drawing board, nurture values about who we are as a people, and these values will be taken up by the young people. And instead of, I think we're blaming so much the young people when we are creating an environment that is debilitating for their ability to pursue the kind of Africa that they want.
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much. I mean, just because of time, we have to end it right here in studio, but the conversation continues. Keep tweeting. The hashtag is InFocusRW. Share your thoughts on what you've had right here on air, and of course, you can also add your own opinions onto them on the matters of Pan-Africanism. Is it a reality or simply a slogan? You will definitely be able to tell us all that in the course of the time that will be going on. So far, 72 votes. Here we go. We have 56% of you who say that Pan-Africanism is simply a slogan, and 44% believe that Pan-Africanism is real. Is this what you believe in? Let's talk in the course of the time that we'll be able to have online. As always, let me say thank you to our panelists who've been here with us. Brian Kagoro all the way in South Africa. Of course, Miriam, Alice, and Dr. Lonzen, thank you for being here with us, and for you for tweeting and being a part of the program. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe. Goodbye.
bimaze kugaragara ko hirya no hino mu gihugu hari abatera amabuye ku bikoresho bimeze nk'udusahane tw'idongo bitandukanye insinga n'amapoto ku miyoboro y'amashanyarazi ari byo ubusanzwe byitwa isolateur. Hari n'abatera imijugujugu ku nsinga nyirizina cyangwa bakazangiza.
Muturarwanda, waba mukuru cyangwa muto, aho waba uherereye hose mu gihugu, sobanukirwa ko gukinira ku miyoboro y'amashanyarazi ari ikizira kandi ko bitera ibura ry'umuriro rya hato na hato. Ikindi kandi bishobora no guteza impanuka zirimo gukomereka bikomeye ndetse n'urupfu.
Mubyeyi, toza abana bawe kudakinira ku nsinga, amapoto n'ibindi bigize imiyoboro y'amashanyarazi.
Rege kandi iboneyeho kwihanangiriza abacokoza insinga biha amashanyarazi cyangwa bibi ibikoresho bigize imiyoboro y'amashanyarazi. Ni icyaha kandi bihanwa n'amategeko. Umuntu wese uzafatirwa muri ibi bikorwa bigayitse azakurikiranwa n'inzego zibishinzwe.
Ibikorwa remezo by'amashanyarazi ni umusemburo w'amajyambere. Kubyangiza ni ukudindiza iterambere ry'igihugu. Muturarwanda, nyangamugayo, tanga amakuru ku bikorwa nk'ibi ku ishami rya Rege rikwegereye.
Wanahamagara nimero itishyuzwa 3535.
Ubu butumwa mubugejejweho na Sosiyete y'u Rwanda ishinzwe ingufu.
Abatuye isi batabarika bavutswe ubuzima n'impanuka zo mu muhanda. Banyarwanda, amagara araseseka ntayorwe. Reka twese tugire uruhare mu gukumira no kubungabunga umutekano wo mu muhanda. Irinde gutwara ukoresheje ibisindisha. umuvuduko ukabije, kuvugira kuri telefone, kutubahiriza ibimenyetso byo mu muhanda, gutwara ibirenze ubushobozi bw'ikinyabiziga cyawe, kudatwara ikinyabiziga udafite uruhushya.